is used and the like. But if we're going to have this kind of funding made available to groups, we've got to make sure that there's access for those communities who might not normally participate. So I'd like to see, and I note that in the report on page 45, it talks about community programs for the Auckland Festival Trust. On page 47, there's a topic paragraph just on South Auckland, Pasifika communities and Asian communities. So I know that there's an attempt, but belying that needs to be a real attempt to make sure that these communities can participate. And if we're going to have expensive performances going on at the Māngere Town Centre, in the Māngere Arts Centre facility, then we're not making them accessible at all. And so I'd invite you to keep that in your mind when you're working with these groups, because I think it's absolutely paramount that the groups in South Auckland, the groups that I represent, have access to these showings. Thanks, Chair.
Just one thing though, Councillor Collins, to be aware is a lot of these groups are really just running pretty close to the bone financially, and you want, to actually have more outreach, etc., requires more money. It's as simple as that. Because, if you look at the big ones, the Philharmonia, the opera, and with the arts festival, but the Philharmonia and the opera, it's moving very expensive groups of people around, and it's just costs a fortune. So that is a fundamental issue that they face all the time in making their decisions where they go.
Yeah, and I accept that.
Yes. Councillor Fletcher.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm happy to move these recommendations with the assurance that the work that you have outlined will continue to take place, because I think all of us can see that we have outgrown this legislation, but Vern and his board have done an excellent job within the statutory environment that they're working within. And I would suggest that even if we are to work forward and see change in a legislative sense, we're going to have to transition very carefully to ensure the ongoing viability of these organisations, and to have a board that has had the experience and the insight into some of the real difficulties amongst the organisations that are here is desirable. But I'm happy in the interim measure that we find ourselves with to move these recommendations, and in so doing acknowledge the board and the staff for bringing it to us.
Thank you. And I seconded that.
Thank you.
Councillor Simpson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Vern, a question to you and your board, really. This is, in the openness of transparency and accountability that this council is striving to do better than previous councils. One of the things I wondered if you could discuss with the recipients is that when they report back on the work that they've done, but then they particularly have a section on what the council's grant funded, and then if they're going to ask for more, why? Because that is it's not consistent throughout the groups. And I was asking questions probably quite painfully for the chair, but for that very reason, it's not there in black and white, and it should be. We should be able to know openly and transparently what ratepayer money is funding from that organisation, noting that it has other sources of funding. So I just ask that your board consider that when they potentially are writing to the recipients.
Yeah, certainly, through Mr. Chairman, that is part of the discussion that we have with each individual amenity, and we do. Each amenity also has KPIs, and we ensure that there is a focus on a number of factors, including the Deputy Mayor's comment about regional reach, that it isn't just city-centric, that there is that there are KPIs around getting out to the rest of the region. So that's all part of the process that we follow through.
But maybe even a template or something. Then you get a bit of consistency with the way they populate it.
We do have templates. We have a application process of the amenities will tell you a very lengthy process.
It's not here back to council. It's not here back to council to be transparent about what they spent our grant on, our money on. Okay.
Maybe if I could just add to that, part of the difficulty about getting that transparency is because the legislation just provides it's a reasonable contribution towards the amenities operating costs. So in many respects it doesn't go to a specific project, but in many ways just to keep the lights on in these organisations to varying degrees. So within the report, I think in the table it gives a breakdown of the percentage of total revenue that the ARAFA funding makes up of the different entities, and it ranges from about, I think, 75% to about 4%, depending on the organisation. So for some organisations, they could say, yes, the council funding funds a specific activity, but for a lot of them it is just sunk into their everyday operating costs for them as an organisation in their totality.
Yeah, I get that. There's what you have to do and what you should do, though.
Yeah. Remember, it is controlled by separate legislation, which we have to respect. So. Member Taipuri.
Tēnā koe te chairman, te tipu nei, nā mihi nui ki a koutou I tēnei wā. Through Mr. Chair, just a couple of things. One is just looking at the Māori impact statement about addressing Māori outcomes. So to me it's a bit general in the context of is that achieving that via this funding plan and where. So I'm quite interested to know a bit more about that. Maybe not today, but if someone can provide that information. Also, a bit of clarification, Mr. Chairman, about, I get that the Act's there and it specifies groups, but I wouldn't have thought that's exclusive in the context of council being able to fund or support other groups throughout Auckland via its other mechanisms, principally the LTP. So unless you've got the money, talk's cheap. So, I guess when you're budgeting and you're putting that up, you'll be thinking about that for all the projects across the region. And I don't think just, targeting the Act here is actually addressing that issue. I think you can still fund activities or organisations and the like outside of this Act. So if I'm wrong, tell me. But I would have thought Council has that mechanism available to it anyway without seeking a repealment or an amendment. The other thing I'm supportive of the current situation is that it has legislated a Māori representative on the board. So any amendments or repealed to the Act would concern me if that was removed or that mechanism was removed from opportunity around Māori participating in that decision making. And I picked up around the board remuneration review. I just saw it in the spirit of fairness. Kia ora.
Councillor Newman.
Look, I just want to commend the Auckland Philharmonia Orchestra for the good outreach that it's been doing, Mr. Chairman, and I want to pick up and just acknowledge, for example, a $40,000 funding application that was approved by Trillium Trust allowed the Philharmonia to extend its performance at Nathan Homestead and at the event centre in Manukau, which were free concerts, which were concerts which were provided for the local communities in Manukau and in Maniarewa. There is a lot of money that gets channelled from a lot of different organisations into these groups, and that's appropriate. I think what we're doing here, though, is, and I'm very happy for us to be approving the submission, and that will, of course, inform the funding, and it will eventually be approving funding to these organisations. But the funding that we are providing does not in itself cover these groups. And there are a lot of different groups out there, and the Manukau Symphony Orchestra can't get funding. They would like to apply for funding, and I think it's reasonable that they should be able to line up for funding. There'll be all sorts of different groups out there that do want to apply for funding. But this is quite a tight little relationship that we've got going on here. And I think that part of the convenience for this council in maintaining this particular relationship is that it serves the purpose of providing a barrier to different groups actually getting the opportunity to put their case through the funding board to make funding applications and for that to be supported. So, charitable organisations in Manirewa like Trillion Trusts, Class 4 gaming machines, will continue to contribute to enable the provision of the Philharmonia in the south, but that doesn't actually get funded through this activity. That extension is funded because they go up there and apply to gaming trusts that operate in South Auckland. And so there is a limit to the extent to which this mechanism that we are continuing to endorse, subject to future policy work, actually provides benefit to the wider community. So, I commend the board, but there is a limit to what this board's funding can do. There is a need for a consideration of all sorts of groups that probably do need to be included, and the quantum of funding involved is much higher than what's being considered here.
Thank you, and I'll just comment as I'm actually a chair of the 4th largest Class 4 gaming trust in New Zealand, and I can tell you money is getting tighter and tighter everywhere, whether it be from private sponsorship or from philanthropy or from this council. The demands are getting greater, quantity of demands are getting greater, and the quantity of money being asked for is getting greater. But
yep.
So we have the resolution. There are no more speakers, so I'll move by Councillor Fletcher, seconded by myself. All those in favour?
Aye.
Against? Thank you. Thank you, Vern.
Thanks.
Thank you, Anita. Thank you, Lynn. And Catherine. Yep. And Lee. Right, we're going to move to item 14 because we have local board people here, so we will actually do 14 and 15 next. And 14 and 15, we'll do 14 next and then 15. Huh? Okay. Oh, sorry, Dean. Yeah. So, Grant, you were going to make a 5-minute.
I've been up to
Can I, just for members around the table, remember this is really an issue about two things, and really we've got to be careful how we keep them apart and how we blend them together, etc. But one is the issue of, do we want a high performance centre in Auckland? And where it ends up is another issue. We're not here to debate that today. And then is the other issue of the legacy money that I think the majority of councillors around here recognise is legacy. Not that it's ever been said, but fenced off money for the North Shore, and it is the last bit of legacy money that we have, and in the spirit of the money that was again fenced off from the Hillary Commission, Hillary funding, Councillor? The Hillary funds, what do we call them?
No, they weren't
And
Hillary.
Councillor Darby.
North Shore City. They were North Shore City.
I
asset
know,
sale
but I'm
proceeds.
just saying the precedent last year, there was some Hillary money that actually was legacy money from Auckland Council and Waitakere Council, and we did, in the end, basically pass resolution agreeing that that money, where it was possible, should be going back to those areas for the projects. And so I think that did set the precedent. I don't think there's really any argument around this table. I haven't had anyone approach me to say that money, that $3 million, should be going to South Auckland or anywhere where it's needed, or West Auckland or whatever. I think there's general agreement. So all I can just say is I don't think you need to kind of stress that too much or labour that too much, but I know that's what you're going to talk about. Go ahead, Grant.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and councillors, for this time here today, and I appreciate the comments that you've just made. It's also great to have two of my colleagues, the local board chairs, from
Daniel,
North Shore.
Lisa.
Sorry?
I just said welcome.
Daniel and Lisa. And Julia Parfitt, the other chair, sends her apology. She has a conflicting meeting. But I think the chairs and the boards are united in our position. And it's also great, certainly with Councillor Darby here today, because Councillor Darby, Julia and Lisa and I were all part of the North Shore City Council decision-making process surrounding this money. So we do have a lot of history, and without dwelling on that, I think it's important that narrow